I have that key in my hands, the key that opens the door to another world. It is a big world. There will be a huge leap that will throw us into the sky where there are no limits. We will enter this world because of all the things we can do there, but we will stay there because of who we can become. Technology is a powerful thing, and it is developing at a high speed, especially now. Everything that once seemed to be utopia is now our normal life. And technological leaps are the reason we can enjoy this interesting and beautiful life experience. Before we look ahead, let's see how we got here. We all know that one of the biggest leaps in development was on the assembly line, which changed the world radically. Production speeds accelerated many times, which led to a mass production and a very large drop in prices. Today, we do not see any large production without the assembly line. Henry Ford sincerely believed that it was the businessman's responsibility to make the world a better place and to contribute to the society. He was considered one of the most successful businessmen of all time. Before Fordism, it was a fantasy for an ordinary worker to own a car. Yet, it became a standard. Then, for a long time, the world was without such great life-changing technological developments. World wars were over, countries were able to deal with their own development, quietly moving for the better. Technologies changed, but it didn't change so dramatically. Life was once much slower, and developments did not take place as we are used to today. Once upon a time, when you were born into a farmer's family, the only logical future for you was to become a farmer. Your father was a smith, then you became a smith. Skills were passed down from generation to generation, and these same skills were enough to do the same job for 50 years. Can you imagine us doing the same job today as our fathers did 50 years ago? It would be like sending regular letters instead of emails. That would be a quick way to communicate and to do business, wouldn't it? Speaking of writing, as we rewind through time, another great leap in our books to be much more faster than ever before. This also meant that all ideas, news, and other important messages could be shared with the world faster. Instead of handwriting the books, they could now be printed by page. For each page, letter by letter, but for sure it was a big improvement compared to the past of handwriting. Yet, can you imagine how long it would take to print all the Harry Potter books page by page? Yeah, it would take a lot of time. But it still was a great development. No doubt about that. And this was such a great leap that this type of printing was in use from the 15th century all the way to the 19th century, practically unchanged, with only small improvements. No one could wish for a better version. It seemed fiction that the already brilliant way could be done even faster and better, especially because in the past, we didn't even have paper, and images were carved in a stone. Therefore, at that time, this method seemed to be complete. But actually, you can always be better and more efficient. Today, in addition to faster book printing, we can also print out 3D characters from the book if we wish. And in fact, we don't even need a physical book anymore. We can read an ebook. And those of you who remember carrying school books around, you don't need to carry a physical book with you anymore. You have a library on your phone or iPad. Actually, no, you don't have a library. You have all the world's libraries with you. How crazy and utopian is that? And even this has not been enough for us. Let's go beyond that. You don't need to read a book anymore. You can listen to a book so that the computer reads it to you fluently. Thanks to audiobooks, consuming books is also accessible for the blind people. Development and efficiency brings us closer to all kinds of different things. It makes them more tangible and cheaper so that they become accessible to everyone in the world. What was once science fiction is a common way for today's young people to consume a book. Maybe even the only way. Seems like there is nowhere to develop in this area. Wrong. There is always a way. In the future, we probably can just scan the book and all the information will be in our brain. We will probably look back to this day and think how crazy it was that people actually read the books. Another technological leap. Let's speak about communicating information for done in a local newspaper or on a large paper poster on the streets. Today, we can't talk about advertising without speaking of algorithms and personalized ads with the help of an AI. As a result, about 47% of internet users have already started to use ad blockers. 15 years ago, all of this was unimaginable, and even these words didn't exist in our vocabularies. Crazy. By now, various technologies, social media, and marketing companies use our patterns of behavior to show us ads for products and services that we might like or find interesting. AI technology already knows our needs before us, and probably not too far away is the period where we just ask Siri or Alexa to display whatever we want in front of us on a screen or just as a floating object using augmented reality. Probably we can just say, hey Siri, show me the new Mercedes model. The car appears in front of us. Or show me the way to the nearest coffee. And the map is being projected in the air. And soon after that, we don't even have to say anything. We only need to think, and technology understands us. This is, for example, what Elon Musk is developing, in addition to all the other crazy innovations he's working on. So with Neuralink, he's working on designing the first neural implant that will let you control a computer or a mobile device that again will change the world. Another great leap on the way. I mentioned augmented reality. Just to explain you what is virtual reality and augmented reality, they do have similar names, but they're actually very different. In virtual reality, VR, users get to interact with the virtual world. We're basically wearing a headset and we're standing here, but what we see and hear and even feel, I would be physically here on this stage, but I'm virtually in the desert trying to figure out which way is the oasis. On the other hand, augmented reality, or AR, doesn't take us to a virtual world. It just overlays graphics and animation on top of real-world environments. So you can have a screen or an item hovering right in front of you. Already now, both AR and VR are used in a wide range of fields, including entertainment, healthcare, education, manufacturing, real estate, logistics, military. Many large companies are investing billions and billions in the development of this technology. Most of this advanced tech has been way too expensive for us individuals. So it has been in the use of defense industry, medical industry, and other high-cost industries. But over time, everything is becoming more affordable. And be assured, in a short while, we're all using these technologies. A lot of technological developments have been slow, but as more time passes, the faster the developments are taking place. For example, 17 years ago, we didn't have an iPhone. It first came out in 2007. We didn't have Facebook. That came in, I think, 2004. YouTube a year later, 2005, and then also Twitter. At that time, e-commerce was in its infancy. There was no mobile internet. And looking back now, life 17 years ago seems like science fictions. How could we live without these things? And what are the numbers today? According to Euromonitor International, in 2019, 57% of the world's population had access to the internet. And at least 1 million internet users are right now being added every day. Funny thing is that 52% of internet traffic is already provided by mobile phones. But 15 years ago, China didn't have a huge leap. Do you know which ones were the first portable phones? In 1973, Martin Cooper introduced the first prototype of a mobile phone. It was weighing, I think, 1.1 kilograms. It was 23 centimeters long, so about this long. It was 13 centimeters thick, like this. It's like a big brick. Or we're building like 13 iPhones in your one hand. And it actually gets better. The prototype only allowed 30 minutes of talk time. And after that, it required 10 hours of charging. What an easy life people had back then. And remember, at that time, this was a huge development, an enormous one. According to the statistics of 2019, people spend an average of 6 hours and 42 minutes a day on the internet. Out of that, 2 hours, 22 minutes on social media. But at first, people didn't even have computers. Does any one of you remember what were the first computers like? The whole room was full of a computer. And now we carry one in our small handbag, and the laptop that is as heavy as a water bottle. This radical change has taken place just in a few decades. Now imagine what is ahead of us. Elon Musk, one of the richest people in the world, or the richest person in the world, is known for his actions and plans that are ahead of this time. Through his activities as an entrepreneur, he seeks to change the world and humanity. One of his great goals is to stop global warming. The other big goal is to reduce the possibility of human extinction by building a colony on Mars and making human civilization multiplanetary. Can you imagine that in 10 years, a person will be on Mars, and in a few decades, thousands of people will already be living there? Complete utopia, I would say. There is gravity 37% of what we have here on Earth. How unrealistic does it seem now? But hey, if Matt Damon could create the nature and life, even if it seems as unreal as ever seen in science fiction movies. Speaking of movies, which are the most popular movies lately? The Marvel movies. The movies that show futuristic, unrealistic, imaginary sceneries, characters, and stories. But why? People want to experience more. They want to expand their imagination. People like to see the heroes. They want to experience heroism through movies, since a common wish amongst the majority of people is the hero of their family. By seeing the movie through the eyes of the main character, they are able to experience this fulfillment through them. Even though most of the content of the Marvel movies seems unreal, we need to remember that what was once a science fiction film and seemed utopian and perhaps even scary has in many ways become a reality today and made our lives much more comfortable. I'll bring you some examples. Flying people, like in the movie Blade Runner in 1982, seemed completely science fiction. Today, jetpacks that you can take on are available and people can fly. There are those that fly above water, and there are also those that fly in the air. Iris scanning seemed like an alien intervention. But now, phones and doors can be unlocked by using it. The movie Back to the Future, with the crazy time-traveling doctor, predicted video communication between people. Well, it is part of our lives today. We're doing it right now. And one of the craziest of all, multi-level cities with flying vehicles, flying cars. As shown in the movie The Fifth Element with legendary Bruce Willis. I have a feeling that flying cars are hovering just around the corner. We live in these old science fiction films today. The only difference is that it's not science fiction for us. It's our ordinary everyday life. We get used to comfort so quickly that we don't remember the time when we didn't have it all. It is time that we start looking at science fiction movies with an open mindset. Today, there are not many people who are ready to predict what the world will be like in 20 years. 20 years from this moment. No one dares to do that because we are on the threshold of a great leap forward. With such a big leap, the world is changing so much that no one can really predict what changes it will bring. When Henry Ford invented the assembly line, he did it for the car industry so that he could assemble his cars faster and cheaper. His goal was not to change the entire manufacturing sector and thus the entire consumer society, but he did. When the internet was invented, it was not even foreseeable that in 2021, this year, an 8-year-old boy from London would earn money with a TikTok account. It was not intended that the President of the United States would spread his messages via Twitter. It's a crazy world. But at that time, a person would have been put in a madhouse for such ideas. So who dares to say today what will happen in 20 years' time without being stamped as a crazy person? But why are we currently facing a huge leap forward? See our world. What is going on today? Air traffic is closed. Countries are locked. We all wear masks. People can't travel. Events and parties are not allowed. Theaters and cinemas are closed. And we can only communicate with you through the internet. I don't believe that the internet inventors ever predicted that. We do see a lot of disasters in the sci-fi movies, and we are currently living in one of such disasters. But we also see a lot of futuristic developments, and one of such is about to get launched. There are so many opportunities in the world, yet they are limited. The opportunities are very often limited to your connections, to your skills, to your location. We can say that there is always a possibility. And yes, there is. Yet in some cases, the chances are strongly against you. What if I told you that there is a way to reset the current world? What if there is a possibility for every one of you to start your life over again? What if you could travel all around the world and see the magnificent sights and breathtaking views our planet has to offer? What if you could work the job that you have always dreamt of, but you have not been able to apply, or you have not been hired in the area where you live? What if you can do the business that you have always wanted, yet you have felt that you are late, that it should have been done 10 or 20 years ago? Imagine the future where we have two worlds, the physical world as we have it now, and then a virtual world, which could be the world that fulfills our dreams. A world that is partly the exact replica of our physical world and partly a newly constructed virtual world. A world where we can travel and see all the places we have ever wanted to visit. We can see how they look like, what it feels like to be there. A world where our workspace is located wherever we want it to be. We can physically be at our home and virtually be in the office. We wouldn't have to commute to work, traveling by car or by bus or by train for an hour or maybe even 2 hours every day to work and then back home. We don't have to waste that time sitting in traffic. Instead, we could spend that time with our family, or by exercising, working out, taking a healthy walk in the nature. We wouldn't have to buy a small apartment in the city center, trying to be as close to the office as possible. But for the same money, we could live in a much bigger house further away without missing anything, because we can go shopping virtually, walking around in the virtual malls and outlets, seeing what different stores have to offer. And as our physical appearance and body measurements, all the hands and the face and everything is scanned into the virtual world, we could instantly see how different clothes fit us and how they look on us. We wouldn't have to put any effort on changing between this and that and that. It's exhausting. All of that we could cut out of our lives. And as the malls are virtual, we could go to visit the malls all around the world without leaving our homes. And we can do that together with our friends who are also in their homes. So you could take a friend from Jordan, one from Australia, and one from Mexico, and go to see the shops in London and have an incredible virtual shopping experience. And then right after that, you can take a quick 2-minute flight experience to Barcelona in Spain and have a nice virtual walk in the beautiful Parc de Güell. From there on, wherever you and your friends wish to go, it's all up to your imagination. You can take your whole family to a vacation you have not been able to afford. Your children can see and learn so much more about the world than ever before. You can have virtual experience of the things that you have been scared to do before, like skydiving or bungee jumping or flying with a jetpack, whatever comes to your mind. And it feels so real because you have a haptic costume on that has sensors that measure different points on your body and give you impulses when needed. So what you are feeling is so real that you don't even realize you're in the virtual world. And as you give a handshake to your friend, he also feels that. If you hug somebody, he feels that. And you can even go to a therapist or a masseuse without leaving your home, as the suit gives pressure exactly how the therapist applies it. A lot of businesses can be built in the virtual world that can have a global reach. And you could get an international job in the virtual world plugging into the virtual office. There are just so many possibilities that we have not had in our lives before. And as a lot of things are virtual, we don't need to build bigger cities. We do not need to build more physical malls, parking lots, huge office buildings, concrete monsters that only pollute our planet. The whole world can cut back so much on overproduction, which inherently helps to reduce plastic waste and general pollution. By shifting to the virtual world, we could save nature and the planet our physical bodies live in. At the same time, we would open up endless opportunities to learn new skills and activities, to create completely new business ventures, and a lot of new jobs. We could optimize a lot of processes that are pure waste in our today's world. We could really make this world to be so much better place to live in. Imagine what you could do. Imagine what you would want to do if we had a virtual world like that. In this world, we could earn and use our local currencies. But as we're talking about the global world, there would be nothing easier than to use global virtual currencies, such as Stagcoin. Can you see now where the world is moving? What the future brings us? After today, we will not say, what if? We will start exploring it without any hesitation whether it is possible or not. Our imagination is the only limit. After today, you will all have the key to open this door to another world. Take a look.